Fatima? 106. Okay, noted. Sai Satish?
Present, ma'am.
Santosh? Santosh, 132. No response. Jeevesh, 133.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Akansha Chakravarti? Okay, noted. Venkateshwara Reddy? Venkateshwara Reddy. Okay, by the time I take attendance, we have a small topic left in third unit. Okay, so in that, one among that is data mining. Okay, so can someone look into the internet without wasting time and just find out what are the various data mining techniques? For example, you have things like association analysis, regression analysis, classification, and prediction. These are the three major techniques, in fact. Okay, so can you look into the internet and just find, collect some information regarding what is association analysis, what is regression, and what is classification and prediction? Who can do that? Just 2 to 3 lines regarding it. Who can do that? Nobody will volunteer for anything in this class. Srija is there in class?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Just the various data mining technique. And by the time I finish, you just tell to the class, you have a Google in front of you. Just tell them what are the various data mining techniques, what each is. That's all.
Okay.
Right. So I'm making a note of who are the people who volunteer and do it, or who, when I assign it to people who does it. So definitely it will be appreciated. Who's this? 143. Okay, noted. 144. Nityashri. Okay, noted. 145. Ramya Bharati.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, 146. Jairam.
Present, ma'am.
147. Mona.
Present, ma'am.
148. Bala Yogesh.
Present, ma'am.
Ragul Raj.
Present, ma'am.
Sanjay Nambiar. Sanjay Nambiar, 161. 161. Okay, noted. 162. Lokeshwar.
Present, ma'am.
Kishore. 168. Kishore. No response. Sai Prakash.
Present, ma'am.
Kishore is absent. Naren, 173. 173 also absent. 182. Arjun.
Ma'am, Naren present, ma'am.
Naren is present. What about Arjun? Arjun is absent. Okay. Yogeshwaran, 185.
Present, ma'am.
Srija. Srija is there. Ushendran.
Present.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. S. Shruti, 194.
Present, ma'am.
Manikanta, 196.
Present, ma'am.
Deepak Venkateshwar.
Present, ma'am.
Irfan.
Present, ma'am.
Rajadurai.
Present, ma'am.
Tarun.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, what is this? Kishore is present, 168. Okay, Kishore.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, 240. Tarun, I noted. 242. Tilak.
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Who's this? Santosh. Santosh, one clarification. Did you upload your part B and C? Your invigilator was complaining that part B and C is missing. I'm yet to check all those things. So, okay, yes, ma'am. Okay. $245.
Present, ma'am.
249. Gunashekhar.
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Manitarun.
Present, ma'am.
Shaji. Okay, anybody else? Missed attendance. Later, don't text me. I will not be giving attendance.
Ma'am,
Okay.
27, ma'am.
Who's this? 27.
Ma'am, 92.
92. Who's 92? Sai Hemant. Sai Hemant is marked as present. Okay. Done. So and another one more clarification. These two, I mean, $38, $55, $66, $132, $143, $242. Registration number 1. Your invigilator texted me that you people have not turned in GCR. I hope all of you have uploaded the things on time. I'm yet to check it. Why I told us these numbers were texted to me by your invigilator. The numbers which I just called out. Okay. Right. So we have a small topic left in third unit. So let's complete that today. So we were discussing about knowledge representation. Knowledge representation techniques for structured data. What happened? Where did my PPT go? What exited? Wait, just a second. Sorry. Okay. Uploaded in Google form. Okay, if you have uploaded, well and good, because your invigilator texted me certain numbers and one among was your number, Santosh. That's why. Okay. Srija, did you find out something? Because we discussed, so far we have discussed about knowledge reasoning for structured data and then for uncertain knowledge reasoning using Bayesian probability and belief network. Then we have some more techniques for uncertain techniques, wherein we have 3 small topics. One is what is called data mining. Next is fuzzy logic. And the third one is Damster-Schaffer theory. Okay, so how many of you have heard the word called data mining? You would have studied elective ML, right? ML and data mining and machine learning. Nobody will respond. Okay, let's see what Srija has found out about. Yes, what Srija has found out about data mining. What did you find out about data mining which you would like to share to the class?
The various techniques, the main important techniques of data mining are clustering, regression and classification. So clustering is an analytics technique that relies on visual approaches, like it uses graphs. It differentiates data using colors. So with graphs and clustering in particular, users can usually see how data is distributed. That is about clustering. And regression. Regression techniques are useful for identifying the nature of the relationship between the variables and the data set. I mean, in a data set. Then in classification, it involves analyzing the various attributes associated with different types of data.
Okay, thank you, Srija. Srija has put in some effort and collected some information. Okay, so in AI and ML, when you say data mining, it is also called knowledge discovery in databases. Okay, it's all about the extraction of previously unknown and potentially useful information from the data. Okay, so a number of statistical techniques are being used, which will enable us to find the trends and the relationship from large databases. Okay, so extraction, transformation, loading. So in data mining and ML, they call it as ETL, extraction, data extraction, transformation, and loading. Okay, so when you say all these, there are so many techniques involved in it, because the data that comes to the data warehouse is from heterogeneous databases, or heterogeneous data sources, you can say, which will be having different formats. And then, as you know, the real world data is what is called a dirty data. So you will have to perform what is called data cleaning, to remove the noise, inconsistent data. Then you will have to perform what is called data integration. All the multiple data sources will have to be combined. Then data selection, whatever data is relevant, it has to be selected for analysis purpose. Then data transformation. Okay, so you are putting the data into appropriate form, whatever is suitable for performing mining. Then only pattern recognition and statistical techniques are being applied to extract patterns from the data. Okay, then of course visualization techniques, they are used to present the mined knowledge to the users using some BI dashboards. Okay, so there are various techniques for it. So a few are being mentioned out here, like your association analysis. Association analysis is the discovery of association rules showing attribute value conditions that occur frequently in a data set. Okay, so this is basically being, if you would have heard about product recommendations, product recommendation systems. So that basically works with association analysis. Okay, you would have experienced those. Or it started with what is called market basket analysis. Market basket analysis, so recommendation systems. So when people go to buy things in the supermarket, what are the things which could be clubbed and which the users tend to buy? They are being put together in the shopping cart. Okay, so all these are association analysis. Okay, then again regression. Regression again itself is a huge topic. Okay, creating models that explain the relation between dependent variables through the analysis of what is called independent variables. Okay, prediction of product sales performance by correlating the price and the customer income level. Okay, different types of regression is there. Okay, that itself is a huge topic: linear regression, logistic regression, and many other classifications. Okay, then we have what is called classification and prediction. Okay, designing a set of models to predict the class of the object whose label is unknown. Okay, then it may be of the form if-then rules or decision tree. Various decision tree algorithms, techniques, etc. are there. Okay, so anyway, that is beyond the purview of our AI. So I just want to tell you that these are all some techniques for representing your uncertain knowledge. Okay, so that's what is your data mining, which is also called knowledge discovery in databases, KDD. Okay, a lot of processes involved: extracting, transformation, loading, cleaning the data, removing the noise, data integration, data selection, transformation, then pattern recognition by applying some statistical techniques. Then you evaluate, okay, to identify the interestingness of the patterns, whatever is representing the knowledge, and then some visualization techniques are being used in the form of some charts or graphs, so that it can be made into a presentable manner to the users. Okay, so that's what your data mining is all about. Okay, so then one limitation of data mining is that it only extracts knowledge limited to the specific set of historical data. Okay, and answers can only be obtained and interpreted with regards to previous trends learned from the data. Okay, so this actually limits one's ability to benefit from new trends. Okay, so there are some, disadvantages for your data mining. Okay, another technique what comes into what is important is what is called fuzzy logic. Okay, heard about fuzzy logic? Heard about fuzzy logic? Okay, so this is also a method of reasoning that actually resembles human reasoning, your fuzzy logic. Okay, so this actually deals with your vague and imprecise information. Okay, so rather than just having two crisp values, 0 and 1, or no and yes, yes and no, you are looking into the intermediate possibilities between 0 and 1, 0.1, 0.2, or whatever. Okay, so between a crisp yes and a crisp no, what are the various values which people use, human beings make use of in decision making. Okay, so there are actually a wide range of possibilities between a yes and between a no. We can have what is called certainly yes, or possibly yes, cannot say, possibly no, or certainly no. Okay, so in fuzzy logic, actually approximations exist rather than exactness. You're having approximations. Okay, so this will help us to deal with uncertainty in engineering. Okay, so somebody is unmuted. Can you please mute? Okay, so fuzzy logic is something which will help us to deal with uncertainty in engineering. Okay, so when you say fuzzy system or a fuzzy logic system, it will consist of fuzzy logic and rules, and which can be used for some classification related task. Okay, so commonly being used in your expert systems. When you say expert system, it is nothing but it will have a knowledge base and an inference mechanism. Together we call it as an expert system. Okay, so now when we come to looking into the operation of a fuzzy system, you can see here a crisp input, then some operations happening called fuzzification, rule evaluation, that is rules and inferencing, then defuzzification. Okay, so first let's see what this is how you go about building a fuzzy system. You have fuzzification, inferencing, then composition or aggregation, and defuzzification. Okay, so first let's see what this fuzzification is all about. So you can see here, fuzzification, a crisp input is coming and it takes the help of what is called your input membership functions. Okay, a crisp input and some membership functions here. Okay, so let's see what this is all about. Okay, so your you can say the fuzzification unit, it will convert the crisp input into fuzzy input. Okay, so your fuzzy system, it basically makes use of a notion of membership. Membership basically to reason out the data. Okay, to reason about the data. This is all for reasoning. Okay, so your fuzzification module, what it will do is it will transform the system inputs, which are nothing but a crisp numbers, into fuzzy sets. Okay, so I'll just show you. So this is an example of the membership function being represented graphically. So you can see here LP, MN, S, and all these things. So they are actually what is it? Somebody was trying to tell me something. What is it? Nobody. Or you're not able to hear me or something. Okay. So you can see here the membership functions. Somebody trying to call me. Just a second. Okay. So you can see here the membership functions. So the fuzzification unit, it will convert your crisp input. What is the crisp input? you have a definite input, either a yes or a no. So that it will convert your crisp input into what is called your fuzzy input. So fuzzy input means it will have a range of values between your yes and no. Okay. So for example, you can have things like LP. LP is large positive. Say the element X is large positive, or MP, medium positive. You can have probabilities associated with it, or S. S is small. Then MN, you can see here, medium negative. LN, that is large negative. Okay, so whatever system inputs, which are crisp numbers, that will be getting transformed into fuzzy sets. Okay, so the membership functions will work on the fuzzy set of variables. Okay, so this membership function will allow you to represent the fuzzy set graphically. Okay, so it will always have a value between 0 and 1. Okay, so each element, okay, each of these element X, okay, that is your, that will be mapped to a value between your 0 and 1. Okay, so this is actually called the membership value or the degree of membership. Okay, so it will actually quantify the degree of membership of the element in X. X is nothing but all these values in to a fuzzy set, let's say A. Okay, so all these membership functions for your LP, MP, S, MN, LN, that's what is being shown here. Okay, so here you have actually the x-axis, the input voltage it is showing. It is a 5-level fussifier which varies from, it is showing from minus 10 volts to plus 10 volts. So corresponding how the output changes. So the value between 0 and 1. Okay, so now you have understood that the membership will take the value between 0 and 1. But the question is, how can the membership be determined for a particular element? Okay, so it's actually based on the past experience of the user, or on the machine learning approaches, or on some mathematical functions or the shape or whatever. Okay, so the membership function will always have a lower bound and upper bound and centroid value associated with it. Okay, so that's regarding the membership function with which the classification unit was attached with. Okay, so the classification, the crisp input and the membership function on it. Okay, so now we can see here the fuzzy rules establishes the fact base of the fuzzy system. It identifies the input and the output, defines appropriate if-then rules, uses raw data to derive a membership function. Okay, so an example is being given here, considering an air conditioning system that determine the best circulation level by sampling temperature and moisture level. The inputs are current temperature and moisture level. So the fuzzy system outputs, you're categorizing it as none, low or high. So the rules that are being formed, you can have a look at it, the rules. Okay, right. So next is the inferencing. The next after fuzzification, the inference, the rules or the inferencing, the rule evaluation, inferencing. Okay, so what is this inferencing? So the fuzzy logic will actually map the numerical input, that is your crisp data based on, your numeric input data based on some inferencing mechanism. Okay, so this inferencing mechanism will make use of the degree of membership, what we just discussed, in order to help in the reasoning of the data. So what exactly this fuzzy inferencing process is, you can call it as a mapping of a given input to an output using fuzzy logic. Okay, so in inferencing, we come up with some conclusion. Okay, so we come up with some conclusion. Okay, so when you have to conclude something, you will have to have some knowledge. Only based on some knowledge only you can do some conclusion. Okay, so in the inference process, the knowledge is represented in the form of what is called your rules. Okay, for example, when you say rules, one rule can be for example, if the GRE score is high, okay, then one can get an admission in a high rank university. Okay, so getting this outcome due to high score is what inference does or inferencing does. Okay, so in the inferencing process, the truth value for the premise or the fact is being computed, and then further it is applied to the consequent part of the rule, that is to the right hand side. Antecedent and consequent parts of a rule, we had discussed all these things in the previous topics. Okay, so there are basically two methods for inferencing. Okay, simple method is what is called its max-min is mentioned here. A more generalized way, actually it is min and product inference. These are the two techniques. Min along with, instead of min, a max can also be used. Okay, so minimum, if it is minimum inferencing, what you do is the output will be clipped off. You truncate it, clipped off. And whereas in the case of when you say product, if it is product, then it is scaling of the output. Okay, so these are the various inferencing techniques. Then of course you have what is called your aggregation. Aggregation is also called composition. Aggregation or composition. That's okay, leave it. So this is called composition. Okay, composition, it is also called aggregation. So max composition, maximum aggregation, combining all the fuzzy rules obtained by the inference into a single conclusion. Okay, so since different fuzzy rules might have different conclusions, you consider all the rules. Okay, so rule 1 can be suggest a high circulation level. Rule 2 will be suggesting turning off the air circulation. Rule 3, a low circulation level based on the AC example. Okay, so accordingly. So you can use a min inferencing rule, a product inferencing rule, or max inferencing rule, depending upon it. Okay, so get the final conclusion. Okay, so that's what your your composition, inferencing and inferencing techniques is all about. Okay, so now coming to the last part. So we have completed falsification, then inferencing, then coming to defalsification. Defalsification is nothing but the opposite of falsification. That is, right now you have your fuzzy value, fuzzy input. Okay, so that gets converted back to your crisp number. Okay, so that's what your defalsification is all about. Okay, again, there are so many techniques for all these things for defalsification. Okay, so I'll just mention about it. We are not going into depth into all these techniques. Okay, so defalsification, okay, converting your fuzzy value into crisp value. Okay, so this process is not that easy. It's quite complex since fuzzy set might not translate directly into crisp values. Okay, so because controllers of physical systems require discrete signals, and many techniques are being used for it. So two the most commonly used techniques are centroid technique and the maximum technique. Okay, so that's what defalsification is all about. Okay, so now coming to summarizing. So in falsification, what you basically do is you convert your crisp set into fuzzy set. Okay, so the membership functions defined are applied to your input values. Okay, so this is actually done to get the result of the antecedent. Okay, so the degree of truth of each premise is determined. Then you have what is called inferencing. Okay, inferencing means the truth value for the premise is computed and further applied to the consequent part of the rule. Then you have what is called your defalsification, wherein your fuzzy value is getting converted back into the crisp number. Okay, so that's what your fuzzy logic or fuzzy, operation of a fuzzy system is all about. Okay, so actually this fuzzy logic, it's got a lot of practical usage. It's used in commercial purposes. I mean, wherein you can control the machines, and a lot of consumer products. Okay, so it may not give accurate reasoning, but then it will give acceptable levels of reasoning. That's what is being expected. Okay, and it will help us to deal with the uncertainty. Okay, so I think an example of washing machine is given here. Okay, so actually when we are using a washing machine, the user manually sets the washing time based on the volume of cloth and the dirt, that is the type or the degree of dirt. Okay, so in order to transform the washing process into an automated one, so you can make use of what is called your sensors. So sensor to detect the one sensor to detect the volume of the cloth, and then sensor to detect the dirt. Okay, then certain washing time will be chosen based on the data. But then we cannot define a precise mathematical relation between the inputs, in the sense that is volume of cloth and dirt and the output. Output should be the washing time. Okay, so always the washing time is manually set by the user based on the previous experiences and trial. Okay, so when you are saying that you are trying to build a washing machine with automatic washing time determination, so what it means is you are trying to build two subsystems. You can say one a sensor system which will collect the data from the sensor. Generally collects data from the environment, right? Out here it will be the cloth, and then it will be sending to the controller system. So controller system will be what is called a fuzzy logic controller. Okay, so that will set the washing time based on the information received from the sensor. Okay, so that's what. So the ultimate goal is to create a fuzzy logic controller for a washing machine that will compute the appropriate washing time based on certain information about the cloth that has to be washed. Okay, so when you say the input, you can see here the input for it. The input will be the, let me see whether I have another PPT for it. Okay, the input for this, it will be the degree of dirtiness. Okay, how will you measure that, or can you determine that? By looking at how clean your water is or how transparent your water is. You can always determine the degree of dirt. Okay, then the type of dirt. So that is actually you can find out by examining the soaking time needed for the water to get a constant transparency. You can say some transparency saturation point. Okay, so there could be cloth with thick stains. Then their time period will be longer because the thick dirt will take more time to dissolve in water or whatever when compared to the other type of dirt. Okay, so defining the fuzzy sets for the input variable. So that's what. So you can set, I think as here, I think they've given three fuzzy sets: low, medium, high, the usual washing machine. Okay, so the usual washing machine, if then rules are being defined, the membership with the fussification, they're defining the rule base. It's generally given as if and then. For example, one of the rule can be if the degree of dirt is high. I'm giving you a sample rule. It's being generally shown here in the diagram. Let me see whether any specific rules are being, okay, here. Okay, so here it is given as if then rule base. So a sample is being given here. Okay, so if the degree of dirt is high and the type of dirt is thick or grease, then it is extra long. Or yeah, it's a small dirt, it's a non-greasy dirt, it's medium. So accordingly, see, not greasy, medium, greasy. Okay, so if the degree of dirt is low and the type of dirt is thick, then it can be a very long wash. Okay, then defussification will be performed according to the membership function for the output variable. Okay, so that will transform your fuzzy set, whatever is being obtained by your inference engine, inferencing rule evaluation engine, into the crisp values. Okay, so that's what basically happens. So defuzzification, this was fuzzification, converting it into crisp, this is fuzzy values. Okay, not median, NS, Z, PS, PM, these are the membership functions, okay, defined for this. Then the fuzzy rules, then finally the defuzzification. Okay, so that's what basically happens, right? So that, that's regarding your fuzzy logic. Okay, so what is fuzzy logic and where does it play a picture, and what is the operation of the fuzzy logic, wherein you have three functions: fuzzification, rule evaluation or inferencing, and defuzzification. Gave you an example for a washing machine, okay, with a rule base and sample rules, wherein all the three operations take place. Okay, so now coming to the last topic. It's called the Dempster-Shafer theory. Okay, so this was being developed by the person Arthur Dempster and Shafer, so together called Dempster-Shafer. Okay, so the Bayesian theory, whatever we have discussed so far, it's concerned only with single evidence. Okay, and it cannot take into consideration or cannot describe ignorance. That is one disadvantage of it. It cannot describe ignorance. Okay, so your Dempster-Shafer theory, for which I'll be giving an example, basically is a evidence theory. It's an evidence theory. It will combine all the possible outcomes of the problem. Okay, so hence it's used to solve problems where there may be a chance that a different evidence will lead to some different result. Okay, so there are some terminologies associated with it. Okay, associated with the Dempster-Shafer theory. One is what is called a mass function. Second is what is called the belief, and third is what is called a plausibility. Okay, so this is the all possible outcomes. That is what is called a mass function. Mass functions, then belief and plausibility. These are the three things. Okay. So now let's see what are these. Okay. So I think we'll see an example. Okay. So an example is being given here. Okay. So let us consider a room where 4 people are presented, A, B, C, D, and suddenly the lights are out. And when the lights come back, B has been died. Somebody has killed B, stabbed and killed him in his back with the help of a knife. No one came into the room and no one has left the room. And B has not committed suicide. Somebody has killed him. Okay, so we have to find out who is the murderer. Okay, so this is the scenario given to us. Okay, so these are the 3 possibilities. The 3 possibilities in front of us. Okay, either A or C or D has killed him, or either these two combination or these two combination or these two combination have killed him, or the 3 of them have killed. Okay, or none of them have killed. Let's see. Okay, but then it's not a suicide. Somebody has killed him and stabbed him from behind. Okay, so we have to find out who. Okay, so first I told you we have 2-3 terminologies associated. Okay, so first is what is called your mass function. The mass function, the evidence collected by the police. Okay, so the proportion of all relevant and available evidences that support the claim that supports the claim, the actual state belongs to K and not to a particular subset of K. Okay, let's see what this is. I think in the next slide. Okay, here it is given. Okay, so yeah, the 4 people locked in the room and the light goes out. When the light comes, K is dead, stabbed with a knife. It's not a suicide. Okay, so you have one of them is the killer. Okay, K is being killed, so it could either be B, J, S. Okay, so you can see here it is B, J, S is the killer. Okay, so you have 3 people. Three people means 2 to the power 3, 8 combinations. So these are the 8 combinations which is being given to us. Okay, the 8 combinations given to us. Who are the suspects? Okay, so detectives, after receiving the crime scene, assign mass probabilities. That is what is called a mass function. Mass probabilities to various elements of the power set. So this is what is called a power set. Various combinations to the power set. So the event and the mass. So no one is guilty, 0. B is guilty, 0.1. So this is based on the evidence, the various elements and other things. And they have assigned what is called mass probability. Okay, so now this is the first component. Okay, so now we have to calculate, or we need to calculate what is called the belief. Belief and then the plausibility. Belief and the plausibility. Okay, so belief means it will lead to believe that some possibility by bringing out some evidence. That is what is belief, believing. Okay, so you can see here how the belief is being calculated. Okay, so belief, we are given A equal to Q1, Q2, Q3. Okay, so belief is, see, M of Q1, that is mass, mass probability, or mass function of Q1 plus mass function of Q2 plus Q3 and the various combinations. So this is how you compute the belief, the belief of it. So M is nothing but the mass function. Okay, so you are computing here belief of B comma J. Okay, so you get the values, okay, based on the mass function. Then if it is belief of B, that is mass function itself. So when you calculate for B alone, it's going to be the same as a mass function itself. Okay, that's how you calculate. Okay, so then you have what is called the plausibility. How you calculate the plausibility. Okay, so plausibility is PL of B comma J. Okay, so wherever B and J comes, even for the other variables, you need to take it into consideration. Wherever B and J comes, it has to be taken into consideration. So B, J, the B comma S. So though S is not coming into, we need to put into all the variables, whatever is associated with B and J. Okay, so that's how you compute your plausibility. Okay, so after computing the mass function, belief and the plausibility, okay, so along with this, along with belief, you have something more that's out of, it's an extra thing actually, not very much required. We have what is called a disbelief. Disbelief is actually 1 minus your belief. 1 minus your belief is nothing but your disbelief. Okay, so disbelief, doubt, disbelief is nothing but doubt. Okay, so after computing this mass function, the belief and the plausibility, okay, we compute what is called the belief interval. Okay, so this is what is belief interval. Belief interval. Okay, so how you compute belief interval is here 0.4 minus 0.1, or here 0.7 minus 0.2. Similarly, you compute. Okay, so whichever belief interval is the least, okay, so that will be the suspect. Out here, this is the least, so this is going to be the combination of S comma J, and this particular combination is going to be the suspect. So that's what your Damster-Schaffer theory tells you. Okay, you compute your mass probability, then that is after site inspection, then the belief, the plausibility, compute the belief interval, and whichever is the least will have a is considered to be the suspect with little more promising suspect. Okay, so that's what your Damster-Schaffer theory tells you. Okay, then I think some advantages and disadvantages are being mentioned here. So advantages is, as we add more information, the uncertainty interval reduces. It has got a much lower level of ignorance. Okay, so that's advantage when compared to your Bayesian probability. Okay, then the person dealing with such problems is free to think about evidences, and we will have to consider deal with 2 to the power n of sets. So in our example, we had seen 4 people, 1 is killed, so 3, the power set is B comma J comma S, so 2 to the power 3, you have 8 combinations. That's what is considered here. Okay, so accordingly, so that's what your Damster-Schaffer problem is all about. So with that, we come to an end of the third unit. I don't know how many of you were